All right, guys, internet people, we're going to check the study guide today. So it might be a slightly slow start, but hang in there. There's going to be good stuff in a second. Who can pass this out? John, to all of your classmates. Or Aiden. Oh, Aiden was great.
Very much so.
All right, guys, listen, welcome back. This is the last Monday of the year, Neelius, or whoever else. All right, this truly is the end. Miss Fisher and Caitlin, scoot into your desk, please. So, guys, we are going to come here next Monday to take a final. I need to look at the final schedule. Once I look at it during lunch or something, I'll put that in the square in the corner there because there's no homework this week. So, do y'all happen to know when first period final is?
No.
Okay, so it's not Monday, so either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Monday is second sports, that's all I know.
John is pretty sure it's Wednesday. I'll look at it as soon as this class is over, probably. I meant to do that. All right. So anyway, we're just going to check the study guide today, and no one's going to talk over me. Because, guys, it's the last Monday. I think that should motivate you to, like, kind of be focused. Big, crazy town. Round of applause for Danny, Soraya, Ava, and Ella, and Natalie, guys. Come on, give it up for them. Thank you, Neelius. Okay, so Neelius and Carson are cool. The rest of you are all losers for not clapping. You're straight up lame. But, guys, stop talking. The next person to talk gets detention, I promise you. Off to a rough start. Y'all are already really annoying. But those kids that I just named, they went and did something really crazy. The play went amazingly. It was truly awesome. I wish I could just do plays instead of teach kids who refuse to clap when I ask them to. Y'all are all miserable human beings. But these kids are amazing. Jake didn't make it. I figured one of them wouldn't. I thought it was going to be Jake and Ava, but Ava did show up. So you guys are incredible for even coming to school today. We had the craziest 7 days of our lives. Kylie? I was King Edmund. Yes, that's true. Thank you, Kylie. Yeah, a lot of teachers were in it. Thank you. A lot of teachers were in it. An admin. So it was cool. Okay, so final warning for Antonio. Final warning for Susan. No. I'll never ever give any punishments to kids who are in Narnia play. It's a loyalty thing. Y'all can actually do whatever you want, and I'll just have to go with the flow. All right, guys, this week's going to be fun. We're going to check the study guide. Stop, Connor. We're going to check this, or we're going to go over it today and tomorrow. That's pretty much all we're going to do. Dugan, if I see you talking to Fisher at all, I'm going to move you immediately. Wednesday, more review, I guess. I don't really know what we're doing on Wednesday, but I know on Thursday and Friday, we're just going to play like a super crazy Jeopardy game. Okay. I'm going to give out some prizes. Okay, I missed Comic Book Day, which is the day where you can go to a comic book store and they have like a bunch of free comics and you can get like at least like 5 comic books. But I do have some free posters. Even if you don't like comic books, these could maybe be some kind of currency you could trade them for something you do want. I'm going to try to get some more stuff though, because these feel a little anticlimactic. My first year, I got like a bunch of free comic books from Free Comic Book Day. And even people who like didn't care about comic books, which is 100% of you, because nobody reads American comic books except like old men like me. But people still were into it. They wanted those free comic books because it's kind of exciting, I suppose. Guys, my car made a whining sound for a second this morning as I was accelerating up a little hill, and it scared me. And then I turned it off. Richard, final warning before you get detention. I'm terrified though. I'm terrified. So I'm going to take it. Huh? Okay, so it's not just me. Maybe something about the weather changing is like throwing things off. But yeah, guys, I promise I will give you detention. I'm getting some really bad energy from a few of you guys. I'm not in the mood. I had an amazing weekend putting on this play, and I just can't deal with your nasty attitudes. So people are facing forward and looking straight. Guys, the last Monday of the school year. Just like be cool, okay? Please don't be like lame. All right, guys. So the first part of the final is gonna be you just rattling off the endings for all three declensions. I'm sorry, this is not an exciting part of Latin for really anybody, but we're gonna do it. It's gonna be great, and you should feel impressed with yourself for being able to do this. Y'all all did all three of these declensions like 2 months ago or so, and the average on those quizzes that had the declension parts were super high. By the way, I feel like I need to acknowledge this more. Narnia kids, y'all have any thoughts, anything to say? Did anything crazy happen at the Swirly Cow cast party yesterday after I left? Ella? Oh, that was good.
The boys won the dressing room competition, and so they got a SpongeBob.
Right. I saw the SpongeBob and I heard they set it on fire. That's why you don't give them. That's creepy. Oh, like outside of the Swirly Cow?
Yeah.
Okay, but they filmed it or something. That's scary. Ava, you deserve scariest actor. I think the music helped. Your costume was amazing. Anyway, you totally deserve that. Everyone raved about your fight with Jake. Like people would talk about the big fight, but they really liked that first fight in Act 1. So are you Danny?
One of our performances, Jake pushed Edmund too far and he fell off the stage, and then he broke his cup. That was great.
Yeah. No, was that Friday? So that was like the first.
No, that was Saturday. That was the first performance.
Are you sure? Okay. No, I remember that happened. I was like, oh my gosh! Like 1 second, Ben is like tumbling down the stairs, but he gets like right back up, like nothing happened. And then like within 5 minutes, somebody broke the glass. And Miss Black, I could hear her like radioing behind me. She was like, get a broom to somebody. But Isabel was incredible. She like stayed in character and like got off the glass up.
She made it into a line.
Yeah. No, Miss Beaver and Mr. Beaver, they were great. Everyone was great. But no, that was kind of hilarious. But yeah, that was like the worst it ever was. Like there was never other like big mistakes or people like totally blanking out or like messing up a cue or something. I didn't do huge mistakes. There was a couple things last night I like started to sample like a little too early, so you like heard for like a second it like played, and then I actually played it for real. But that's like the worst it was, so I can't really complain. But that was like the most it ever. Yeah, I remember Eliza blanked out for a second, but like I expected more of that. I thought that was gonna be happening like every show, like every act of every show that happened at least once, and it didn't really. So it was amazing. It was amazing. I kind of wish we could perform it for the entire school, like during the school day. But I guess they have trouble like justifying like stopping learning for like 2 hours so that people can watch this amazing play. Yeah, actually, it wasn't even 2 hours. Really quick. All right, so guys, this is gonna be kind of boring, but this is why it's gonna take us 2 days to do the study guides because we're gonna go through one by one and fill these out. So you need to fill them out as we go. Natalie, what is the nominative singular ending of the first declension? Yeah, exactly. It's A. Can you also tell me? Let's see. Should we go across? No, we should go down. We should like stay on one declension at a time. And what's the genitive, Natalie? I'm sorry. It's A and then one other letter. No. Uh-oh. A-E, okay? A and A-E. And this also shows up over here, this A-E. So you might as well do them both at the same time. Yeah, so when you see first declension nouns, their dictionary entry, you have something like fama for fame, and famai is the genitive. But that A-E ending is also technically the nominative, plural. But just so you know, when you see it in the context of dictionary entry, it's the genitive there. And then the dative is also A-E, which is horrible, truly horrible. Kylie, what is the accusative? We like the accusative. So guys, statistically, when you're seeing a first declension, it's likely going to have the AE ending. And we just have to roll with the fact that that could be a plural subject kind of thing, could be a singular possessive thing, or an indirect object thing. No, you're thinking of the plural one. Well, I'll put that though. AS is the accusative plural. The accusative singular is like my favorite noun ending of all time, person. Yes, A-if. And this will start a pattern that'll continue really consistently throughout like all 5 declensions, actually. I think all the accusative singulars are ending in M, except maybe a couple weird third declension neuters. The ablative is technically already on the board, but not exactly, Nelius?
A.
Yes, it is a long A. So that macron is important, okay? Because if this was just another A, yet again, we'd be like, oh, so ending in A could be a subject or an object of a breath. But no, only when it's a macron is it going to be ablative. And then it's a sure thing when it has that macron over there. Good. We already said the nominative plural is A-E. Antonio, what is a genitive plural? It's 4 letters long. It sounds like something you put on as a character in a video game. You put on some armor. Let's say Connor. And then, Devin, what's the dative and ablative plural?
One. One.
What?
I don't know.
It's 2 letters. It's 2 letters. So y'all have to be able to reproduce all of this within less than 7 or 8 days. So hopefully y'all are not just writing it down, but like internalizing it. Yes, it's I, it's long I-S-K, good. And it's those are both the same. They're sandwiching the accusative A-S and A-M. So I try to think of it as the accusative having this like kind of consistent thing here. A-M, A-S will go on to see second and third are kind of similar. And they're being sandwiched by ablative and dative, which overlap at least on the plural side. If not, I guess not the singular side. But the plural side is like sandwiching the more distinct accusative. But yeah, ablative and dative are usually always
Or
overlapping.
you could just remember that after Jen is
Yeah. So y'all all had this, like, I remember the quiz we gave, that was probably back in February, so it has been a while. But the quiz we did with the first declension, the average was like stupid high. So if you have lost this since then, that's okay. It's kind of something you can lose really quickly if you don't like constantly review it. So next time I do a first year Latin, like every week, I'm just going to be giving out noun charts. And we'll do it every day this week, even before Jeopardy. I'll hand out just scrap paper and just say, like, jot out the first declension. Well, you know the first declension. We got to do NGGACAB, and hopefully you're able to get most of this. Because what does it say? I even gave, this is 15 points, this whole part. The whole test is going to be like about 60. So this is a quarter of the test. So this might be some of the most energy, huh?
Just the whole paper.
The whole,
3 declensions.
yeah, all 3 together. Yeah. It's not like each one's quite worth 1. It's almost like each one's almost a half point or something. Yeah, because it's like 30 endings, right? If each declension is about 10 endings, if we ignore the vocative, it's about 30 endings. But there's so much. Because I just do. But there is a question about it, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of overlap. So it's not actually 30. It's more like 20 endings, and then it ends up they show up in 30 spots. All right. Okay. Let's do second declension. So, right, can you think of at least one? Because there's a few. Nominative, singular, masculine or neuter ending. Give English words like virus, stylus, syllabus. Yeah, so US or R. Oh, well, yeah. Right, so we only have 3 nouns that end in R, puer and weir, boy and man, and auger, field. But we have quite a bit of adjectives that end in R and they're nominative, masculine, singular. Like liber means free, and that would be nominative, singular. But more commonly, the nouns end in US. And then in chapter 4, you find out second declension can also have neuter nouns, and they're mostly ending the same except for in the nominative, singular spot, and the accusative and nominative plural are also a little different. So I'm going to do it in a different color. But yeah, go ahead and write all 3 of those. That's what makes a nominative singular for second declension kind of annoying. Danny, what is the genitive? No. Let's think of, because I think of like how we say multiple cactuses. Yeah, we gotta do all 3 of them, guys. I've had kids do this ever since I started teaching here, and they always do this just fine. I know it seems daunting, like when you see all the endings, it seems like really intimidating. But we'll just drill it every day this week. This is probably the thing you're gonna have to study, because the most of the rest of the study guide is like fill in the blank and multiple choice, which is not too bad. So if you mostly put energy into this, you'll probably do fine. But when we don't say cactuses, we say, yeah. And that might seem misleading because I'm talking about genitive singular, where I'm alluding to a nominative plural. But again, just like the first declension, the genitive singular is the same as the nominative plural, similar to how we use apostrophe S to make something possessive in English, or we use just an S to make it plural. So the fact that the nominative plurals refers to declensions are repeating genitive singular makes sense to me, because Yeah, if you saw cacti with the genitive I, that wouldn't be cactuses. That'd be also cactus. But this would be cactuses, plural. All right, so far, none of us know any of these. That's great. Ella, what is the dative singular? It's the same as the ablative singular. Ruh-roh.
I think
When Ella and Danny don't know the endings, I'm straight up scared. I'm scared.
it has like the long I and it's somewhere like it's either
You might be thinking the plural one, Ava. Long O's, long O's. So I kind of wish the first declension had this long A right here, because then I feel like there would be this very clear pattern, where the ablatives are like long vowels, but also they're datives. But yeah, first declension has to be weird where there's not this equivalency between the ablative and dative. But for second, there is. So you do that long O here, do it here too. Anybody, what is the accusative singular for second? Okay, maybe Carson knew that and that was it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, UM, all right? First declension is AM, second is UM. I don't like UM because it can show up in a couple of other places, including if a neuter noun is just the subject, actually, like concilium or donum, etc. But I still love AM. So that is the second singular. The plural, Nathan or Connor, doesn't matter. Aurum with an O, and the ablative and dative plural. This is easy, Miss Fisher. If I said it's easy, it must be because it's the same as first declension. Yeah, it's east again. And then, okay, first declension accusative is AM and AS. Second is UM and not US, but OS. Okay, you might think US because of the pattern set up by first declension, but that would overlap with the subject. So luckily, second declension has less overlaps in general. It's really just their ablatives and datives. It's all the ablatives and datives for second declension overlap. And then I guess genitive and all. Other than that, it's somewhat distinct. Okay, that was second declension. We only have one more. So that's 20 endings. But when you think about the overlaps, that since the fact that the ablative and datives are the same, that's bringing it down to like 16. And then since the genitives and nominative plurals are the same, that brings it down to like 12. This is like 12 different endings at this point. And then, aurum and aurum, those are the same too. So this is really not that much. It's almost like in the first two declensions, you're only like writing like almost like a little more than 10 separate endings, which isn't that. I know these are just like random groupings of letters. Like they feel so random and arbitrary. But hopefully y'all understand the importance. So we'll review that in a second. But it's not that much. Huh? I think it's going to be 3. Like at the very end of the study guide, I have 5 sentences that we're going to go over, but we've seen them before. I will pick 3 of those, and they'll show up on the test. Those will be the easy ones because you'll have prepped them. And then I'll give you 2 spot translations, and I gloss every single word in the spot translations. Okay, and that'll be the most time-consuming thing. It's kind of long, but it's not hard. The average on my final is always pretty high. Don't get like cocky, but I think you'll be okay. But like, make sure you put in some time for Latin. Don't blow off Latin because it's not like math or science or whatever. All right, third declension we'll do it in purple, even though on the poster it's always orange. Caden, what is the nominator singular first declension? It's not even a letter. It's actually a punctuation. Yeah, it's a question mark. Okay, it can be all sorts of things. It can be X, it can be IS, it can be US even, right? It can look like it's second declension, like
So you're
corpus and
telling me it
tempus.
can literally be anything and we have no clue what it is?
Yes, sir. That's what I've been telling
I
you.
hate Latin now.
Okay, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay. The genitive, meanwhile, Aiden is.
No idea.
Okay, y'all ain't know none of this now. It's IS. So like corpus, body, corporis. Tempus, time, temporis. Those nouns look like they'd be second declension until you see that they're genitive and an IS. Amor, love, amor is. So whereas the nominative is however it wants, the genitive actually gets IS. And you don't even know what the stem is until you look at that genitive. Because a lot of words, like, even something like nomen. Nomen, that's a subject form. But then in its genitive, it's nomenis. It's a tiny thing, but look, the E turns into an I. So the stem of the noun is actually nomen ending in an IN, which, like, yeah. So third declension nominatives are just weird. They're kind of like, something like lux means light, but the genitive lucus gives you the stem, which is just LUC. So it's not like that X shows up in the other forms. It only shows up in the subject form. Ella?
Is IS the plural of nominative?
No, it's not. So this is the first time that the genitive singular is not the same as the nominative plural. No, it's es, Ava, right? It's es. So we'll get to the plurals in a second. Keep in mind, this is a normal is, whereas these is's for ablative dative plural are long, so we pronounce them is. And it's important that we can distinguish them, because that would be annoying if, like, you saw a noun ending in is, and you're like, is that a first or second declension dative or ablative plural, or is it genitive? You wouldn't even know. But luckily, it doesn't do that. Connor?
Then don't you have I, M, and then E?
Yeah, we do have I, and then E, not just E, but E,
Yeah, I said
M, M, and then E, okay? So the trick with third, guys, is like knowing that you don't know what the start is, but then you do need to know what the genitive is. To get the thing below the genitive, the dative, just drop the consonant off. And then you also just need to know what EM is, or the accusative is, because I say like follows the pattern, basically, right? First declension loves the letter A, second likes U, O, and I, technically, and third seems to like E and I. But then if you remember that one, you drop the consonant off of that to get the thing below it. So it's like you really just need to remember the accusative and the genitive, okay? And if you remember my trick, dropping the consonants off, you should be fine. You didn't have a question, Richard? Yeah. Okay. What is, so we said the nominative plural is es, but we have some neuter third declension nouns. No, that like let's see, corpus, tempest, that's body, time, Carmen, nomen, song, name, coppet, head, and what else? Mare, sea, an animal, and a mollusk. Those are all neuter, and for some reason they get a in their nominative plural. And okay, so now I'm using like purple for neuter and third declension, sorry. But both second and third declension neuters do this. For some reason they get a in their plural subject form, and also in their plural accusative form. It's weird. But things like donum, doni, like gift, dona is gifts, and it can be a subject or a direct object. So if you leave off some of these neuters where I'm like doing the slash and doing something else, I probably wouldn't hold it against you, but try to get them in. But maybe they're not super high priority. All right. The genitive plural is nasty, nasty. Anyone? Caitlin? It's nasty. It's just um. So there's certain words like corpus, corporus, where it'll look like it is just O-R-U-M because the stem ends in O-R, but it's not actually. It's just U-M, and that's by far my least favorite third declension ending. I'm kind of okay with all the other third declensions. I hate this guy because it's like you look at it and you might think like a direct object, second declension or something, or even like a neuter subject. Okay, that is rough. The plurals, though, it's a Polish croaking sound. Kylie? Ibis, and also Carson knew it. Good. And then es is the direct object as well as the plural subject form. So third declension does something that neuter seems to like to do, which is a question we'll get to, where it just repeats its nominative for its accusative, even to the point where technically the exception to this em as accusative ending is for the neuter ones I just rattled off. They would just repeat their nominative form. So like mare, animal, coppet, tempest, corpus. That's how they would be in their subject form too. And then in their nominative plural, it'd be corpora, not corpores. Corpora, tempora, carmina, nomina, capita for heads, animalia. Animalia sounds cool, right? So plural of animal. All right, and then let's see. I don't know if I'm even factoring in the functions or prepositions, but if you don't put them, I would have to like take off some kind of something. So this is the last thing. I know you're like, oh my gosh, like this should be the whole test right here. But anyone the function of a nominative? Subject. Let's do the functions first. Function of a gen. Possessive. There are exceptions to that. Like there's a genitive of description we've seen, like a woman of great fortune. Okay. She doesn't belong to the fortune there, but anyway. Good. Indirect object. You can do IO if you want, but make sure you know what that means. Whereas accusative is direct. If I could reorganize the Latin grammar, I would maybe put accusative in front of dative. I think it kind of makes sense. And ablative is yeah. So the last three are what we call in English, we just call them the objective cases. In English, we have a subjective case, we have a possessive case, and three objective cases. We lump these together. So things like he, his, him, she, her, or her/hers, her, they, their, them. All right. We just kind of lump all three of these together in English, whether it's a DO, an IO, or an O of a P. All right, and then only a couple of these have prepositions. Genitive, it is of, right? You can use an apostrophe as to, but sometimes of feels like easier to do. Dative, 2 or 4. I hope it's not just Ava who remembers that completely. Yeah, we rarely see 4, but it's come up like a couple of times, I think. Yeah. The accusative doesn't really get one. You don't have to do anything for accusative and nominative. It's just like that's going to be the subject, the thing doing the verb, or being verbed if it's passive. This is the thing usually being verbed by a subject if the verb is active. But ablative, I would put by or with. Yeah, from a lot, but I'll put the two that we use with ablative of means. So if an ablative has no preposition buddy and it's not a period of time, because then it would be ablative time one, and we'll get to that. These two can be our defaults, like with if the verb in the sentence is active, by if it's passive, as in the subject is passively verb by an ablative. So these are 2 default ones, but obviously we'll get to the list of all the prepositions we have that take the ablative. We have like 10 of them almost. So it could be a lot of things, but if there's no preposition in the sentence, it's a good bet that it might be by or with. All right, any questions on this? Raise your hand if you think, yeah, you know what, I could probably reproduce this in like 8 days from now. Raise your hand if you're like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, at least half of you are feeling semi-confident enough to do that. Good. Yeah, we'll just drill it. Like tomorrow I'll start the day with just like, I don't think I'll print out forms. I might, but I'll just say like, get some scrap paper out, do an NGTACAP, 5 by 2, and just rattle off as many as possible. I would think of them in groups. Like I would think of, oh, and sorry, internet kids, that was probably so horribly boring. That was like a podcast basically, but I chose to write them in marker and then click through. So I would think of them in terms of like think of the whole nominative singular. Like this is one of the hardest ones because there's 3 different options here. But if you could like piece them out that way, I think that'd be a good way to do it. Other than like, let me think of the whole first declension separately, and then the second declension. No, think of like all your nominative singular endings, then all your genitive singulars, then dative, etc. Dative is the nastiest spot, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it now. I think dative is the worst spot. Dative singular. It has like a lack of patterns. All right, this will go really quick. This should be laughable. Everyone should have this, down. Grace, what is we're just talking present tense, indicative mood. Richard?
OST.
Yeah, OST. What are the subjects, Grace or Richard?
I knew.
Right. And then you want to do the plurals, Danny? Yes. Yes. So this might seem funny. Like you might be like, do we really need to do this yet again? But guys, like, in the past 2 weeks, I've like seen kids still struggle to like have all this information. Some people have a little bit of it, like I'll be like, what's the third singular ending? And they'll know it's he, but they won't remember that means the subject is he, she, or it. So we gotta have this. This is like, you have to be able to show me this, or else like I should quit my job. Which maybe you're like, yeah, maybe you should, because maybe you didn't teach that to us as well as you should have initially. But yeah, this is just like bare minimum. Maddie. Yep. All right. Any questions on this? Okay. And then let's put M2 with the O. Let's put M-O-M as team assistant. Because you might think, oh, it's not just like for imperfect when we get B-A-M, bomb, I was verbing. Yeah, kind of, but we actually have a couple of irregular verbs that get the M in the first singular too. So it's just like a thing. Because we have this weird word, sum essa, to be, that plagues us and gives us trouble in various different aspects of Latin. But it does have, if you count M as a possible ending, it has M-S-T must end. Yeah, it's shifting whether it's starting with an S or an E, which is weird. And then in English, the verb be gets conjugated like to death. It turns into am, are, and is, which are very different verbs. But lo and behold, that is sum essa. And then there's possum as well, and it's very small. But possum, I can, potest, you can, move, test, it can, etc. Or assume I am, S-U-R. Est, it is. Okay, let's get into the multiple choice, which is like way easier than just rattling off a huge chart worth of stuff. Let's start back with Natalie, I guess. Imperfect tense verbs, meaning incomplete verbs. That's what it would translate to in Latin, the word imperfectus. These are verbs that begin in the past and continue the present moment. Include the ending what, Natalie? What's the two-letter ending that you see in the ending of every imperfect verb? Did you say BA? Yeah, good. BA. Yep. I still have people looking at perfect tense verbs that end in like isti or long I or imus or it and telling me they're imperfect. But guys, you might think Latin grammar is just like a mess, like a labyrinth of confusion. But this is very consistent. You see that BA and the ending of what you know to be a verb, that is a past tense verb. Specifically though, it's imperfect tense, meaning it's like something that you started to do in the past and it might still be happening. I was teaching, maybe I still am. And often, and I already gave away the answer, often we just translate these as verbed, which is fine. But if you want to be very specific, the helping verb or verbs you would use are what, Kylie? No, that would be perfect. Yeah. It's was or were. Somehow was or were, like I was verbing, you were verbing, he or she was verbing, we were. They imply that something is like happening or starting in the past, but might still be happening. Or has and have actually, whether you realize it or not, communicate that some like complete action was done in the past. Like I have done my homework. I did it like an hour ago and I like finished 30 minutes ago. I'm done. Versus, oh, I was doing homework. I might still be doing homework, but oh yeah, when you called earlier, I was doing homework. So was and were expresses this incomplete action. Has and have apparently express a complete action. I have learned karate. I'm done learning karate. I don't know why I won't do two wills on the test, so one of them will be had. And that'll actually be a thing we have to address in a second. But number 2, future tense verbs. This one's hard, guys. This one's real hard. Ava, what helping verb do we use for future tense? Yes.
No, wait, but we have to use capital will.
No, not capital. Yeah, let's do D will. Yeah, guys, I don't know why that typo happened. I'll fix it on the test. By the way, guys, the multiple choice is like kind of meant to be an easier part of the test, but I will scramble the answers a little bit. So don't like go through being like, okay, number 2 is going to be D or A because Mr. Brownlee makes typos. So you just have to like actually know the right answer. Anyway, y'all taught me that, not y'all, but some of my students this year taught me that this is actually an important thing to express. A lot of people can't think of will as a helping verb that makes something future tense. But that's all it is. It's not like was or were or has or have. It's just like will. I will do something in the future. All right. Any questions so far? Guys, so Narnia kids, are y'all like y'all mixed emotions like I do? Like I was like glad all the shows went well, but I feel a little emotional. I feel like I'm gonna miss the play. So it's like a mix. I have a weird blend of feelings. So weird thing about a play, it's like you're creating this like piece of art, but it's not like a painting where it's like, oh, I did the painting and now it like sits in this like room for the rest of like everyone can look at it. It's like when you do a play, it's all these different little pieces, like multimedia pieces that come together just for like one performance, and then it's over. So there's like this ephemeral quality, but we also filmed it, so that's cool. Ella, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say that like filmed it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if maybe next week after our test or something. I don't know like when that'll be accessible. Like you probably have to like edit it or something. I don't know. But yes, so there is a record for posterity. But like the actual thing exists in this ephemeral moment, right? Laura, when did you get here? When did you get here?
When did you get here? Like 2 minutes after the bell rang.
Okay, I guess I'll try to mark you not because you're so marked absent. Anyway, okay. Number 3, we're kind of on David maybe. Perfect system verbs. So I'm starting off just going through the verb tenses. Perfect meaning complete verbs. That's what perfectus means in Latin. It's more like complete rather than like perfect in the way we use it in English. But when I say perfect system, I'm talking about the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect, the whole perfect tense family. Use the stem from which principal part of a verb's dictionary entry, David? First, second, third, or fourth? I have this coming up this next slide, but I'll do it anyway. Not sure, Carson?
I think it's the second.
No,
No,
third.
sorry, third.
It's a third, yeah. The first and second are virtually the same. The first and second just show us like one is a first person singular verb, one is the infinitive. Yeah, I do have that. Okay, but the third is at least a little different. Okay, please take a seat. Than the first two. Okay, sometimes it's barely different. Sometimes it's like really close. But usually, like a letter that wasn't in the first two stems shows up in this case for a lot of first conjugations. For a lot of first conjugations, it's B. I don't know. Why do I have typos like these? Okay, Microsoft. No, this isn't Microsoft Word. But whatever this MacBook word processor is, it tries to like predict what you're doing when you're like doing questions and multiple choice. It tries to like play along and like set it up for you, like do the formatting kind of automatically. But it always just like screws things up. Like if you want to change one of these numbers, it probably doesn't let you. And then sometimes like crazy things will happen with the A's and the B's and like. It's like really horrible. I was like sitting in the gym before plays, like trying to type this out and had multiple issues. So that's kind of weird. One of these multiple choice questions probably won't show up on the final because that means it's like, there's more of them than I realized, at least by one. Okay, so yeah, the third principal part, right, guys? The stem for to love, for perfect system forms would be amav, meaning that V. So amavi itself is like I loved or I have loved. Amavisti, you have loved. Amavit, etc. That V ends up being the thing that, you know, if we look at the dictionary entry, we're like, oh, it's got to be perfect tense. If that V is in the ending, it's at least one of the perfect tenses, which technically could be three different ones. Okay, Kirsten, perfect verbs ending in this. If y'all didn't realize, I'm trying to make my questions actually educational. Like, even if you don't know the answer to the question itself contains information. But anyway, perfect tense verbs with these I-based endings, est, imus, istus, aorem, can be translated as verb, just like incomplete and perfect verbs, or with which helping verbs? Has and have. And then I think the next one is a mistake. So the next one is a typo in all sorts of ways. Not only should it be number 5 and everything else should be moved up one, I don't think I have the answer available. So who can tell me what the answer should be for number 5? It's not actually on the board. Ava? Had. Yeah. So whereas perfect, where we use the perfect stem, Caitlin, and then we have est, it, imus, istus, aorem, you know, I have warned or I warned, you have warned or you warned. That's how we translate the perfect. Miss Fisher, please stop talking. This is the mid-term study guide. I'm sorry, the final. Why would you talk through this? This is like the last Latin class of the year. Yeah, I guess she doesn't. But just because she doesn't care doesn't mean all of us have to suffer, okay, and like learn less. Like Caden's distracted because you don't care. Why should Caden have to deal with that? Stop talking. And this goes for Laura too. I know it sounds like I'm directing it to just Miss Fisher. Okay, stop. Pluperfect verbs ending in ERA. So pluperfect verbs use this perfect stem from the third principal part, but then they all have ERA, and then MST must have sent after them, and they use had. So let's scratch out D and put D, had. Sorry, guys, I don't know why that happened, but it'll be correct on the test. Oh, look, you can't even tell that had wasn't an option. So yeah, scratch out aloud. I mean, you can scratch out any of them, but it's had. Number 5, neuter nouns in the second and third declension repeat their nominative ending nullius, which is UM or question mark for third declension. They repeat that ending in which spots? It sounds weird. Like if you ignore the parentheses, that helps a little bit. Neuter nouns in the second and third declension repeat their nominative ending for which case? It's this overlap that's like kind of annoying, but it's not too bad. No? It's actually accusative, okay? So yeah, I'm trying like, well, at this point, I guess I can like show you all this. It doesn't matter. But yeah, this is a weird thing. I'm not sure what the logic would be exactly, but nominative neuter nouns like donum, gift, exidium, destruction, concilium, plant. That's how they look in their nominative subjects in their subject form, and that's also how they look in their direct object form. But there never seems to be like a tricky overlap. Like AE, if anything, sometimes this is like horrible overlap where you're having to the direct object possessive. But usually context makes it clear if you're looking at something that is a subject or a direct object. Those are kind of like two sides of the same coin. And so usually the context helps. And it goes for plurals too. They end in A, like dona is gifts, concilia, animalia, etc. And that's how they show up in the plural subject and plural direct objects too. So yeah, I feel like the question sounds really confusing the way it's phrased. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah, it reuses its nominative ending for accusative. Because I think of like the endings as like nominative is the first set of endings, but it's not actually like that technically. So to say like it reuses is almost misleading. But anyway, Caitlin?
Well, are these numbers in this?
Well, just by like one, I guess, unless that happens again.
But
Oh, it's not the same word on y'all's paper? Oh, really?
Well,
Okay.
so it's-
Remember, guys, keep in mind, I had a very busy weekend. Wait, I thought I'd fix this though. Oh, weird. What? This is confusing. Oh, but no, y'all are misleading me. Okay, I'm looking at Carson's, and it is the same. It's just the numbers. Just ignore that, okay? All right. With two cases function as the objects of prepositions, Antonio or Devin. No, not dative. Dative is an indirect object, Danny. It's accusative. So it's the two A ones, yeah. And I don't know, like, if there's a reason for this, okay? This is all ablative does, is be the object of prepositions, whether they're in the Latin sentence themselves or you need to kind of, like, add them. But accusative, this is, like, what accusative does as its, like, second job, okay? Usually accusative is a direct object, right? I guess I can say usually there, because it seems like this, like, there's a slight leaning towards just being a direct object kind of case. But we have several prepositions, as what we'll see in just a second, that take accusative objects instead of ablative ones. I kind of wish they all took ablatives, but lo and behold, they do not. So, let's see. Y'all call them out. N with an ablative. Huh? No. N with an ablative. Don't overthink it, please. Dear God. In or on. Cum with an ablative. With. Okay, y'all should write the whole word out. Pro. For. Good. It can be like a couple things like on behalf of, but let's just say for. I think for is good. Our ob can be two different things. From is one of them, not two. Yeah, by. Very good, Caitlin. Yeah. So it'll be from in a sentence where the verb is active, but it'll be by when it's passive. Because remember, if like a person is doing a verb and the verb's passive, like the subject is passively verb by Cicerona, Cicero in the ablative. And so you wouldn't say it was verb from something. That's a different kind of ablative. X, speaking of from, it's another from, guys, but it can be of if it's between a number and an ablative. It'll be like 13 of the ablatives. Day is also from. It's also from, guys. I'm sorry, there's three from. Wow, I'm so sorry. But it can be about as well. So they're all kind of like slightly nuanced. Ob is a from that can sometimes be by. X is a from usually when you're like leaving a place, or it's of with a number. And then day is like, I guess we've seen it be from before, but I feel like usually it's like about. It's more like a from as in like concerning or like in relation to. Sub, good, Kaden. Very good, very good. So yeah, this is kind of a vocabulary section. So the multiple choice, guys, hopefully y'all can like master those really quickly, and you're just like, okay, I know the multiple choice. And then spend a little time, because this is basically vocab, and you can spend time on like knowing these prepositions and knowing your noun chart. Those two things might be the hardest thing. I think it's like knowing your noun chart and like remembering all the prepositions. It's maybe the hardest part of this. Then it would be the translations, I guess, and then multiple choice. Like multiple choice is the easiest thing, and there's like a fill in the blank for the numbers at the end, and that's really easy too. And within an accusative is in two, very good. Propter is on account of. I might leave propter out. I don't like it because that's not a preposition in English. That's two prepositions and a noun. Add two. So yeah, we still got to remember somehow that add is to, as in you're like going to a place, whereas ab is from. Okay, that's really tricky. Kaylin? It can be because of. You can be either one. You can do it because of. Because of like one or two less letters, maybe. I'm not sure. The internet is a network that exists blank between modems and servers. Between, it can be amidst or among, but let's just put between. Per, we never see it. Through, actually. Just put through. It can be by with an ablative, but just put through. Because this is the accusative spot. And the anti and post should be easy. Before and after. Anybody think of a preposition I forgot? I probably did. All right. And is a conjunction.
What about
But is a conjunction too. Yeah. Conjunctions, prepositions, and adverbs, I think we all kind of get mixed up sometimes. Conjunctions are like connecting words like and, but, if, also, even. Where prepositions are like in, around, on. It's like having to do with relationships between things in space or time. And then adverbs are things like never, always, then. Adverbs are dumb. Okay, back to this. So this should be number 8. So yeah, I think everything's fine. It's just, if I want to keep the same number of multiple choice, one of these will probably get cut. It'll probably be one of the ones about verb tense or something. But we were.
why is the prepositions part 4 and part
It's because the first multiple choice was part 3. We're just going back to part 3. No, it is weird. You would think like, why don't you just do all of part 3 then part 4, Caden and Alora? But it's just, I'm kind of ordering it in terms of how the textbook is ordered. So that was a part of the textbook I deemed where we have enough prepositions to have a whole section on it. But back to multiple choice. Okay, the first 2 parts are noun and the third part. Okay, we were kind of maybe on Soraya or something. Who knows? When an ablative noun, Soraya, has no nearby preposition, you can use which 2 prepositions as a default preposition, and this would technically be called the ablative of means. So here you would circle 2. Right. Exactly. Very good. I just kind of went over that. Yeah. By and with. Unless number 8. Okay. I might scramble the order of some of these multiple choice on the test, but some of these, like as you can see, like they need to go next to each other. So unless the ablative noun describes a period of time, in which case it's an ablative time when, and you shouldn't use the by or with, but instead should use, and we have like 3.5 options here. Anyone? So if it's a period of time, like that night or that hour, or that day. What prepositions do we use? Blank that day.
Ablative of time.
You're saying when something happened.
Ablative of time when.
That's one? Yeah, but we need the prepositions. Blank that day. Yes, thank you. On. What if you say that hour? You don't say on that hour. You say
Within.
Yeah, so in or within. That's why I said 3.5, because technically I think of these as the same. In or within that hour. What about night? But we don't say on the night or in the night. We usually say at night. And then a third one? Fourth one? On that day, in or within that blah, 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 at night. I thought there was okay, let's just go with this.
No.
During.
Like you could say during the night.
Apparently we're not supposed to do during. There's something called an accusative operation that you get like at the very end of the textbook. On, in, within, at, weird. Okay. I'll remember it next class, but I will follow up. We'll follow up on this. Oh, look, it even says, yeah. So as an example, una hora, those macrons scream ablative to me. You would just say 1 hour, blah, 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 blah. You say like in 1 hour or within 1 hour. AODA, this is that, it's doing that annoying demonstrative thing. So it can be this or that, and say on this day. You don't actually have this word. That's in chapter 23 when you get to the declension. And then hoc tempora would be at this time. All right. I could have swore illid is a demonstrative pronoun that should be translated as blank or blank. I'm looking for the singular and the plural. Danny or Ella? Yeah, very good. And so hikai kak is good. Some of you all know that. Excellent. Hey. So yeah, that's just like making sure you remember the difference there. And I shouldn't just say illa, illid, Alora. I should say illa or ista. Ista is the evil version of illa. But those are referring to things that are further away from a speaker, like, oh, you know, that bookshelf over there. Versus hikai kak I would use for something that's like closer to me, like this marker. I wouldn't like hold this up and say, oh, you know, that marker in my hand. I would say this marker or these markers if I have a bunch. Not something I ever thought about before I taught Latin, but yeah, I guess that's the difference between something like that and this. Is that there's almost, it's like a proximity implication. Like that student over there keeps muttering things versus like these students are all like super chilled out and amazing. Everyone's amazing, guys. Y'all are all awesome. I keep saying things that sound really mean. I get, when I'm around this boy, I hear her say really mean things, but she pulls it off because it's always funny. And then I end up saying really mean things because they're not funny. Okay, so I'm sorry. Personal pronouns, is, ea, id. They're over there. They're awful. Seem to mostly consist of what might be thought of as a single letter stem. Other than is, which is like e, they all are kind of just like based off of like just the letter e. which doesn't even feel like enough to be a stem. But yeah, give at least 5 examples of how they can be translated in English. Okay. So what would a masculine third person personal pronoun be? Anyone? Out loud? But like third person, like you're talking about someone in the third person. So they would be the
He
plural one.
himself.
So yeah, it would be he. And then what's a possessive of he? Possessive. Yeah, his, right? And so I'm kind of thinking of it like is he right here. And then if I go down to the genitive, AS is like his. And then the objective form of he would be him. And then we can do the same thing for she, right? She as the subject of a sentence. But if something belongs to her, it's her or hers, depending. And then if she's the object of a sentence, she'll also be hers. And then if it's a non-gender thing, it'll be it and the subject. It can be used as an object too. But like if it's possessive, it'd be it's. And then yeah, someone already said it. But what's like the plural? There's like 3 plural ones. So any of these 5. You just remember 5 of these. But they, and then what's a possessive of they?
Them.
There, and then the objective is them. Yeah. So any 5 of these, you can pick like, oh, I'll do like the 3 masculine ones, and then I'll do like they and there, and I'll be done. Or I'll do like the feminine ones, and then I'll do it and they or something. I don't know. So just do 5 of those. But yeah, the key word here is well, I guess I'll try to repeat it. I'll try to actually say it third person personal pronouns because I'm not saying that here. But yeah, that's the key. I'm not talking about first person stuff like I and we, or second person stuff like you and your and y'all. I'm talking about third person he, she, it, we, he, she, it, they. What?
Why'd you make it up?
I don't know. No, I printed out yesterday before the last performance. Oh, I'm just trying to think about the performance. But there's a setting on the thing to do staples, but I only saw a setting to do 2 staples, and I was like, I don't need 2. But I ended up doing it anyway. I didn't want to mess with it because I was like, if I change it or like do something crazy. But yeah, I have no idea. Like, why would anybody want? I don't know. Maybe if it was actually a printout of like a book or a play, maybe you would want the full staples. Let's try to finish these last 2, maybe a couple more.
There's a floating surface.
Oh yeah, I just put that there because I needed it for anyway. IUS, okay? Because if you know like your general endings, like that's why I asked the previous question about like how do you translate he versus him and stuff like that. Because I don't want y'all to remember every single one of these, but like sometimes if you just like kind of know the first and second ending, you can figure out that aeon, for instance, is the accusative feminine direct object form, so it would be her. But if you see one that ends in IUS, that would be what case? Anyone? It'd be genitive, so that we translate AS as his or her or its, depending on the context. Relative pronouns like qui, quae, quod appear in the beginning of a relative clause and refer to a word in the main clause, which is called a. Okay, guys, thanks for the day, the class. Sorry if I was grumpy. Y'all aren't miserable people. You're all amazing. Guys, let's have an amazing, awesome week. It's going to be so good. Let's try to keep our positive attitude. And just people. And y'all straight up in. And we're all going to do great on our summer. It's going to be the greatest summer. Truly. Truly, truly, the greatest summer of all time.